Since Valentine's Day is quickly approaching, I thought the dolls might like to have a box of candy. So this week we're going to make a heart-shaped candy box. Stay tuned and see how fun and easy this project is. All right, before we start making this, I want to talk to you about the pattern. So you don't have to go into this blind. If you follow my Dollhouse Miniature channel, you might already be familiar with the PNG and PDF patterns that I am offering over there. And I thought I'd bring the Dolls channel in on the fun. So what I have created for this project is a free downloadable pattern. It comes in two forms. It has a PDF if you're hand cutting. So it means you just have to run off the PDF. Depending on your printer, you might be able to print it directly on cardstock, or you might need to print it onto paper and transfer it to your cardstock. The other pattern that's in the folder that you'll download is a PNG file. The PNG file is designed to be used with like a Cricut or a Silhouette or one of those other electronic cutting machines that use a PNG file. Along with that, there is a little notes page or text file that tells you what size to scale the PNG file to use it in your cutting machine so that you too can make this candy box with the removable lid easily and quickly. So stay tuned and let's get this put together. All right, these are the pieces once they're cut out. Now, I cut mine out with my Cricut using the PNG file that I told you about in the intro. These are the pieces that the PNG file for the box bottom are going to cut. I'm going to do the box bottom, and then I'll do part of the lid off camera and then show you the part that's different on the lid. So these are the pieces. We have 6 smaller hearts, we have 4 bigger hearts, and we have 2 strips. The 2 strips can sit off to the side for just a few minutes while we get the hearts taken care of. So what we need to do is glue these. Now I cut mine out of white, kind of a medium weight cardstock. Just that inexpensive cardstock that you see at the craft store that comes in the big packages, not the heavyweight, just the regular cardstock. That's what I like to use for these projects because it cuts really well. I like using all white. That way I can paint this and the paint will help to disguise all the layers. We'll talk about that when we start painting. And by layering up several layers, as you've seen on other paper projects, we get a really good sturdy project from these pieces of paper. So I have a toothpick and I have some tacky glue. My preference for gluing is almost always tacky glue. I've had problems getting projects to stay together when I've used glue stick in the past. I find that a nice thick tacky glue, you want a thick one because the thicker the glue, the less water in it. A really thin glue, you're more apt to kind of get your paper all warped by the time you get done. It'll have funky little lines in it and it won't look nice. But this is a nice thick glue, and you'll notice I'm putting a very thin coat of glue. I'm going to first glue all 4 of the hearts together. And do your best to line these up. The better you line them up, the better your project's going to look when you're done. So I won't make you watch me do all of this. I will go ahead and glue all 4 of these, and then I'm going to put a weight on it. I'm going to set, I see I've got a container of Mod Podge sitting on my table. I'll put a container of Mod Podge on one of these stacks, and I'll put probably my big glue bottle on the other one. I'm going to weight them down until they dry. That will also help to keep everything nice and flat. So remember, low moisture glue, a nice thick one, and weight it down until it's dry, and spread the glue really, really thin. So when these are dry, I will come back and we'll start adding these sides to it. So I'll be back in just a sec. All right, the glue on these have dried, and now we're going to set the bigger piece aside. See, we've got 2 sizes. Put that over there, and we're going to set the narrower strip aside. So we've got the wider of the 2 strips of paper, And we've got the smaller of the set of hearts. And I've got a pair of scissors here. And I'm going to give this a little bit of a curve. Now, with the curve that way, I am going to make a crease in the middle. Now this piece is purposely cut longer than you should need. That way we can trim it to size. And I'm working on a piece of wax paper. You could use parchment paper, wax paper, something that the glue won't stick to. And I'm going to run a line of glue along one long edge of this strip of paper. Oops, I've got glue on my fingers, so everything's sticking. Now, with this sitting on the paper, I'm going to run this. The idea is we want this to be glued right at the bottom edge. So we want the paper right against the tile. And I'm going to kind of come back and kind of do a crease. Did I get it in the right spot? It's easier if you can look down on this. And I'm going to put this pull tighter. Okay, so this is not tight enough yet. Actually going to, if I was looking straight down at this, I'd be able to do this a lot easier. Trim this off. You should have about a ½ inch on each end that's extra. And make sure your sides are set. Make sure everything is straight up and down and that your paper is touching the wax paper all the way around, and let that glue dry. It needs to be completely dry so that when we pick it up, it doesn't come off. And then when we come back, we'll add this strip to the outside. So I'll be back when this glue dries. All right, my glue's had time to dry, so I'm going to attempt to get this off of here. There we go. And it comes off nice. We've got, it was off a little bit here, but that's okay. I'll just trim it a little, and no one will know the difference. And then I'm going to trim this so it's even with the end. Now, we have this piece, and we are going to do the same thing. First, we're going to curl it. This way it doesn't get quite as crinkly when we go to put it around the heart. Do that. This one, though, I just had my toothpick. We're going to cover the entire back. And we don't need to overlap the end. We're just going to cut it even. So now we're going to take this. And we can pick this up now because it's a little more stable. And we're going to run this one right along the bottom and glue it on. And the neater you are, the better your candy box is going to look. If you're sloppy, then your candy box will look sloppy. I don't want to fold that over. Right to the end. Now, we're going to center this as best we can. Now, this one I'm probably going to have to fiddle with it off camera, but we're going to put this as close to the middle as we can. I want to have as even of a border around this as physically possible. And then this needs to dry. So I am going to go get the parts for the lid, and I'll come back and we'll start putting it together. All right, here are the pieces to the top to the box top. Now these probably look really familiar because these pieces, these 10, are exactly the same pieces as we had on the box bottom. The only thing that's different are these 2 pieces. They're narrower. These we're going to set off to the side again, and once again I'm going to stack the 4 big ones and the 6 smaller ones together, and I'm going to let that glue dry. I'm going to put some weight on them so they stay flat. Let the glue dry, and then when that's done, I'll come back and we'll work with these because they go on just where we had the taller one first and then the shorter one. We're going to reverse that on these, but we'll talk about that when we get that far. So I'll be right back when this glue dries. All right, my glue is dried, and I went ahead and curled both pieces of strips with the scissors for the lid. Now we have on the big one, we put the wide one down first, and then we put the narrow one. We're going to go the opposite on this one. We're going to put the narrow one down first because it's going to act as a spacer. So we're going to, and this one I'm going to run glue around, and this is the smaller of the 2 hearts. Make sure you're putting this on the smaller part. And it's okay if you're a little messy. In fact, I'm going to show you a little trick here that will help this to all stay together a little better. Oh, I need to get my wax paper too. I don't want to forget that. Okay, come on. All right, let's get a piece of wax paper back over here. Now taking the smaller strip, we're going to put this up against it. And if you've got a little glue in that area, that's okay. That actually will help everything to stay together better. So you can put another bead of glue, and you can even go back after this dries and put more in. Now I'm going to fold the whole thing up. And then I'm going to put some glue here. Now you do want to make sure that that is all the way down against the paper. So I'll double check that after I turn the camera off. And then once again, I'm going to leave this tail so that I can cut it off later. But I'm going to run another little bit of glue along here just to make sure everything is set up. Come back in about 4 or 5 minutes and kind of push the paper up against the sides, because that will give the glue time to get really, really sticky, and then you can kind of push it up. I'm also going to take this one and run yet another bead. I did this once earlier, and I'm going to run any place I see the edge of that smaller heart. I'm going to put a little more glue in there just to make sure everything stays together long term. That will make things just a little more secure. Now I'm going to let this glue dry. Like I said, I'm going to come back in 4 or 5 minutes. I'm going to push that paper up. When that's dry, I'll come back, we'll trim it, and we'll add this one, and then we can put the lid together. So I'll be back in a little bit. All right, my glue is set up enough that I'm comfortable getting this on to the next step. So now we are going to, instead of putting glue on this, we're going to put glue on here because that's taller. So it's not going to, that will not all be touching. And I need to get fresh glue out. I should have covered my glue while I was waiting for that to dry, and I didn't. I'm going to get a fresh toothpick too. All right, there we go. Now I did off camera catch the fact that I was not completely straight and I had to pull this back a little bit and fix it. That's okay. It's easy to fix. I just pulled it back and lined it up where it was supposed to be. Now if I was doing this not on camera, I would probably hold it like this to put that next piece on, but because I want you guys to be able to see this and I don't want to be shaking it all over while I'm lining it up, I am going to lay it down. And off camera I will make sure that I have lined that up really well. And once again, we're going to do that. Then put some glue here so that'll stay. And again, I'll want to come back and make sure that this is staying nice and tight against here. So I'm going to leave this sit until this glue is set up. When it's set up, I'll come back and we will go to the next step. All right, our glue is dry, so the first thing we're going to do is trim this so that it's nice and even at the end. And once again, we need to do our best to center this on the big heart. And if we don't get them centered, when the lid is on, it's going to look off if you look down at it. So do your best. All right, so I'm going to do my best to get this on, and then I'm going to off camera play around with it. So I am going to put this on here. I'm going to let this glue dry, and when this is dry, then we get to paint our box. So I'll be right back. All right, my glue is dry, and I will tell you, this one did not want to stay down. I ended up putting my bottle of paint with something on top of it inside of here because it wanted to separate really bad. Now before we paint, we're going to try this. And you got to be gentle, but we have a box that closes, and it closes fairly evenly. It's not perfect, but it goes together. And that's why we did those the way we did. All right, let's paint this. Now I'm going to paint mine red because most Valentine chocolate boxes seem to be red. You know, it makes sense. So I think I'll just put it out. I'll work from the bottle. So on camera, I'm just going to start this. I'm going to paint this side first. Once this paint has dried, I'll probably put 2 coats so that I get a nice even coverage. Just don't put very much on these edges of the walls, especially on the inside of the top and the outside of the bottom, because you don't want to gain any very much thickness there, or the lid is not going to go on, because we still need to put a clear coat on. So we're going to have to be very careful with how much paint we put on this. But the flat surfaces that are not going to connect to each other, you can put paint on. So I am going to paint this. I'm going to get then the this side done off camera. When everything is dry, I'll come back and we'll go on to our next step. So I'll be right back. All right, this is all painted, and now it's optional how you decorate the top of your box. I have some washi tape. I have this red with the hearts, and then I have this pink with silver hearts. I have no idea when or where I bought these. I have a big bin of washi tape. And washi tape's available any place they do like card making supplies and stuff like that. They even sometimes have it at Dollar Tree. I'm going to kind of put these diagonally on the box. Now, if you don't have washi tape, you could paint something. You could use a sticker. You could use Valentine themed paper. You could do anything you want here. Now, even though washi tape is sticky, this is a trick I learned from card making. Is when you want to put something like a sticker or washi tape or something on and you want it to last for a long time. It's a good idea to put tacky glue down first, or a glue of some kind. Now, if we have a smear of glue that's outside, it's okay, because the next step after this dries will be to put a clear finish on our box. So I am going to put this down. Okay, I'm going to have to go a little wider than that because I want this to go out far enough that I can put that pink on each side. Sometimes washi tape will lift, or stickers or anything like that can lift over time, especially putting them over a painted surface. That's why I'm putting this down first. So I'm going to put this right here, and I'm going to cut it. I need to do something off to the side there. There we go. All right, I'm going to put that right like that. And you could put these on straight. You could put them on any angle you want. You could put, you could finish this, and after we put the clear finish on, you could put a silk flower on. Valentine candy boxes are decorated in a lot of different ways. I was thinking I would use some glitter glue on this, but my glitter glue was dried up, so I don't have that to use today. You could paint a design on. You could do anything. So I'm going to let that glue dry. Once it's dry, I'll come back and we'll go on to our next step. All right, my glue is dried. So I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to trim this off right even with the edge. You could wrap it under, but there's not a lot of space under there. And this is lifting a little bit on the edge, so I'm going to put a little bit of Mod Podge underneath the ends. Get this all out of my way. So now we have that there. Now I've got some satin Mod Podge out on this container, just in case there'd be any red paint or that might not be completely set, or this washi tape runs or anything like that. I don't want to contaminate my jar. And I have a brush. This brush is stained, but it's clean. Now, when I do my Mod Podge, I'm going to Mod Podge this. I'm going to skip this rim right here on the top, and on the base, I'm not going to Mod Podge this. I'll Mod Podge the rest. But those are the two surfaces that are going to touch and have to slide over each other to make my box stand go up and down. I'll Mod Podge the outside of the rim and I'll Mod Podge the inside of the bottom, but not those two spots that are going to touch, because I don't want to add any more weight or any more thickness to that area, because if I do, it might not stay. It might not close again. I lost my train of thought there. All right, that's the only place that's lifting up. So now I'm going to go ahead and give a nice coat of Mod Podge. Remember, when you're using Mod Podge, a light, even coat, too thick, and it has a nasty habit of staying sticky, and we don't want that. but it will make our box look a lot more finished, and it will help it to be a lot more durable. I am only going to do this surface on camera, then off camera when this dries I'll flip it over, I'll do the bottom, do the other side of these, and probably put a second coat on everything. I am going to cover this with another bowl so that it stays nice and fresh. So let me go ahead and work here so that I can kind of show you what I mean here on this edge. I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to run right along that. Probably kind of hard to see on camera, and I don't think I can get a picture of it, but I'm going right along that narrower piece of paper here. Now, since we are using Mod Podge and paint and glue and everything, I recommend leaving the lid off of your candy box for at least probably 2 or 3 days before you do. Otherwise, there's a slight chance that it might glue itself shut, and we wouldn't want that to happen. So there, now I've got, now the part of the box that will show when the box is closed is all going to be nice and shiny, but there's no added bulk on that area that needs to be in contact with the other piece. So now I can go ahead and Mod Podge the inside, and I'm going to turn the camera off. I'm going to finish this up, and like I said, I'll do the other sides, and I'll probably do a second coat, at least on the top. We'll see what else needs a second coat, and when that's dry, we'll come back and we'll look at our finished candy box. So I'll see you then. All right, my Mod Podge is completely dry, and here you might be able to pick up on the fact that it's shiny here and not on that rim. I'll try to take a picture and put on the blog post. I'm not sure how well that's going to pick up, but like I talked about in the last section, that will help us to make sure the lid will go. Now, my box has gotten, the paint gets chipped off a little bit on that top rim. I've got a red, this one's a Bic Market. Sharpie makes them. You can buy alcohol markers in the craft store, and I'm just going to touch that very top edge. Since this is not protected, it's not sealed with Mod Podge, it's more apt to have the color chip off. So I'm just going to touch up that top edge so it looks nicer. Totally optional, but there we have our candy box, and I love how this turned out. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Be sure and check the blog post. Not only are there pictures and more information, but there's the link to the pattern so that you can make your candy box. And you're going to want to get it made this week because next Friday, we're going to make something to put in here. So be sure and come back then. If you haven't subscribed to my channel and you enjoy my content, be sure and hit that subscription button and the notification bell so you know when I put up a new video. I thank you very much for watching today, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.